Some may be considered bad for a number of reasons. It could be due to poor design quality. This might include low-quality graphics, poor gameplay, or a poorly designed user interface. The game's story or plot may be poorly developed or non-existent. This can lead to an unsatisfactory gaming experience, as players may find it hard to engage or care about what's happening. Some games are released full of bugs and technical issues that make the game nearly unplayable. That's why in today's video I bring you the 10 worst games of the decade that you need to know. In this video we will consider games released between 2014 and 2023 and their evaluation by Metacritic. So subscribe to the channel and activate the notifications so you don't miss anything. Tiny Racer is a circuit racing game that was released in 2020. It was not well received by critics, and many considered it one of the worst games of the decade. The game received negative reviews mainly due to its flawed physics mechanics. The game's physics system constantly had issues, which affected the gameplay and overall experience. In addition, the game's design choices were also questioned, as it seemed that the developers knew that the physics system was not working properly, but still chose to keep it. Wild West Online is an open-world game based on the American Old West. One of the main criticisms of Wild West Online is the lack of meaningful content and lack of an engaging experience. Many players felt that the game offered nothing new or interesting in terms of gameplay mechanics, missions, or story. In addition, the game was criticized for having many bugs and performance issues, which affected the overall player experience. Another aspect that contributed to the game's poor reception was the lack of adequate support and updates from the developers. Players felt that the fixes and updates were insufficient to address the game's problems and improve the gameplay. The Quiet Man is an action-adventure game developed by Human Head Studios and published by Square Enix. The game tells the story of a deaf protagonist named Dane, and the narrative is presented through real-time video sequences, some of which feature real actors. The game combines action scenes with fighting elements. While The Quiet Man received attention for its unique approach of having a deaf protagonist, it was widely considered one of the worst games of the decade. Critics pointed out several flaws in the game, including a confusing and poorly executed story, repetitive gameplay, and unsatisfactory combat mechanics. In addition, many players felt that the game did not deliver the promised potential in terms of immersion and cinematic experience. Raven's Cry is an action-adventure game released in 2015 that combines fictional events and characters with historical elements from the 17th century Caribbean. The game features historically accurate architecture and pirates. The story follows the character Christopher Raven, the only survivor of a pirate attack, who seeks revenge. Raven's Cry was widely considered one of the worst games of the decade. It received negative reviews due to various issues, such as bugs, technical glitches, lack of polish, gameplay and progression issues, as well as frequent performance drops. Many players were frustrated with the overall game experience, which did not meet expectations. Basement Crawl is a game released in 2014 for PlayStation 4. It is inspired by Bomberman, but is considered one of the worst games of the decade for several reasons. According to Metacritic, the game received an average score of 27 out of 100, indicating generally unfavorable reviews. Some critics considered the game as a poorly made clone of Bomberman, with basic mechanics and little depth. The game was criticized for its confusing and useless interface, which made understanding the game mechanics difficult. In addition, it suffered from technical issues, including glitches and camera problems. Tenkai Knights Brave Battle is a fighting game developed by Delta Arts and published by Bandai Namco, based on the anime series Tenkai Knights. The game allows players to customize robotic fighters to defeat enemies and earn new parts to make their knights stronger. However, despite being based on a popular anime series, Tenkai Knights Brave Battle received negative reviews and was considered one of the worst games of the decade. Many players and critics found the gameplay repetitive and monotonous, with unresponsive controls. Additionally, the game was criticized for having below-average graphics and a lack of innovation compared to other games in the genre. Road Rage is a motorcycle combat game inspired by the famous Road Rash game series, featuring similar gameplay mechanics. However, Road Rage was widely considered one of the worst games of the decade due to various negative reviews. Many players and critics pointed out issues with the gameplay, clunky controls, low-quality graphics, and a lack of meaningful content. Additionally, the game suffered from bugs and technical problems that affected the overall experience. Although Road Rage was inspired by a popular game series, it failed to capture the same fun and excitement that players were expecting. Afro Samurai 2: Revenge of Kuma is a third-person action-adventure game published by Versus Evil and developed by Redacted Studios. It is the sequel to Afro Samurai, originally a manga series created by Takashi Okazaki. In the game, players control Kuma, a swordsman seeking revenge. However, Afro Samurai 2 was considered one of the worst games of the decade. It received negative reviews for various aspects, including technical issues, repetitive gameplay, and a lack of innovation. Additionally, the game was removed from Steam and the PlayStation Store due to its poor reception.
Figure out what you like and find your limits. Don't be rigid, always work towards a prime. Surround yourself with open minds. People can change your life. A few friends with intent can help you feel alive.
Alone in the Dark. Illumination is widely considered one of the worst games in the Alone in the Dark series. Released in 2015 for PC, the game received extremely negative reception from both players and critics. Performance issues and lack of post-launch support significantly contributed to this poor reception. Additionally, the game was criticized for a host of technical problems, including bugs, clunky controls, and a confusing narrative. The game was mentioned as one of the worst games of the decade, according to reviews on Metacritic. Apart from the technical issues, the decision to abandon the narrative focus to make an online multiplayer game also angered fans and did not please the specialized critics, further contributing to the game's negative reputation. V-Room in the Night Sky is a game released for the Nintendo Switch in 2017. The game was developed and published by Poisoft, and received extremely negative reviews, being considered the worst game of the last decade. The game's plot revolves around a magical girl riding a flying motorcycle, collecting items called Stardusts, and shooting missiles in giant circles to open a portal. However, the game was heavily criticized for its problematic gameplay, slippery and imprecise controls, as well as a very poor English translation. Additionally, the game was deemed to have been rushed to release with very little content, making it extremely difficult to recommend to anyone. So there you have it, folks. Have you had the displeasure of playing any of these games? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, activate notifications, and give the video a like to help me bring more content to the channel. I'll be signing off for now. Take care and see you next time.
Just be patient, make a statement, try to enjoy your life. They'll try to kick you while you're down. They wanna rise up while you drown.